Hey, so wanted to just get us started here on our self-portrait drawing. So a couple things I wanted to remind you of, and one is holding your pencil like this. Holding your pencil, shading. Maybe not the drawing part so much. I mean, it's good to start drawing this way too, but you can do your shading with this, holding your pencil all the way at the end, so that you're not pressing hard on the paper. You're just really lightly shading. And then you're shading in layers. So you're building your shadows, starting really light and working towards your darks as you go along. So don't put your darkest darks in there until you're really close to the end of the drawing. So now you're going to set yourself up in front of a window and take a photo so that you have one side of your face lit and one side has shadow. So next is to measure and get the right proportions of your photo onto your paper. So I used a piece of paper and marked the width of my photo, and then I'm going and making 3 marks across. Now measuring that 3 times to get the width, and then I'm going to do that again to get the height. So I'm using my piece of paper, I'm lining it up with the top of my photo, and I'm making a mark at the bottom of the photo, and then I'm going to line it up with the top of my paper and go right down the edge and make a mark 3 times. The first mark, then line it up, second mark, line it up, third mark. And then I gotta put on the grid. So after I make this outline of my boundaries for the drawing, so I've got the right dimensions, then I'm going to find the grid line. So I've got to find the halfway mark on each side. So I did this by taking my measurement and folding that section in half on my paper and putting the mark right in there. Okay, and then from there I'm going to eyeball it, kind of looking at the edge, try to get a straight, make it line up with the edge of the paper, and do the same thing for the bottom section. Alright, so then I've got my grid and it's ready to get into my drawing. Notice that my eyes are on the center line, so that's where I started. That is one way to anchor your drawing down, is look at what's intersecting, what part of the image is intersecting your grid lines, and start from there and work your way out. And this helps a whole lot in getting a likeness and proper proportions, which is the main problem with drawing a likeness, is that you need to get the proportions correct for it to look like the person that you're drawing. So now I am going in to do the outline very lightly where the shadow shapes are and where the highlighted shapes are. So I'm really looking closely to see the lightest lights and the darkest darks. Okay, so here we go with a layer of shading. I'm going to hold my pencil all the way to the back and start in where I see my shadow shapes. So I'm really doing just a really light first layer of pencil or graphite. Looking for just where there's any bit of shading, because it doesn't matter how dark things are right now. I just want to help myself by plotting out or like marking where the shadows are or where the darker sections are. And doing this lightly, it's okay if I make a mistake, I can go back and erase. I could use my eraser for bringing out highlights still. And it's really important to build your darks, not to go right away into dark areas. You gotta layer it and layer it and layer it. Okay, so because as you're working, you may have noticed, like as you're drawing, sometimes you realize that something is drawn, you know, in a way that you're not happy with, or it's slightly off. You need to move it a little bit over to the side or something. You want to redraw it. And if you've already shaded everything in and done all this detail work in that, you wasted your time and you've damaged the paper, because you know it's really hard to remove all that pencil. So this is really the best, smartest way to go about doing your drawing, is to just relax and just wander around. You know what, you've mapped everything out, so just wander around your drawing looking at where the darks are and avoiding the highlights. I have my first layer of darks in there. Now I'm going in for my second layer. So where it's, you know, where I see that it's very dark, I can go back in and add another layer on top. Still hold my pencil towards the back, not pressing hard. I'm just trying to get a second layer in there, change direction with my line. So now is the third pass and the darkest darks and the details. So at this point, I'm going to carefully go in and get some of those smaller shapes, and I'm going to deepen the darks. Still going lightly and building my darks, but now I can really solidify the drawing. So this is kind of the end stages of it.